Game begin.
Hello and welcome to the Berlin Games Week Career Days 2021. My name is Patrick and I'm the host of my own YouTube channel Nerd Over News. And today I'm your host of this full-packed event. I hope you will stay here and have a lot of fun. The whole day the great masterminds are talking about the most important topics to get and stay in the games industry. We will bring you live talks, interviews, panels and unusual but creative gaming. And in the end, hopefully they will lead you to the way to get successfully in the games industry. But this is so much content, I can't handle it all alone. And I'm glad to introduce my lovely colleague Maria Wagner, founder of the management agency Impact with Joy and the Games Forest Club. In this non-profit project, she supports the games industry to restore life and conquer climate change and what can be more important these days. Maria, how are you? I hope you are fine.
Yeah, I'm very fine. Thank you very much for this lovely introduction, Patrick. I'm very happy to be here with you today, and of course I'm also looking forward to spend the day together with you and talk to all these interesting people. So let's kick it off. Yeah, and before we start, big thanks to all our sponsors. Without this day, it wouldn't be possible. Thank you so much for your support, all of this from this great event. So I think we can start now, and here you see the sponsors. All they will support us, and I think we can start now with the first talking point of today. The first speaker is Luca Lombardo, and he talks about the struggle to get the foot in the door. So Luca worked as event manager for various conferences like Amaze and VR now, and he managed a lot of roles for the games industry. Luca, I hope you are fine today.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Hi.
Hi, Luca.
How are you?
So great to have you here in this new show on the Career Days 2021 on Berlin Games Week. And you have a long talk, but for the first time at the beginning, we have a video from yourself. So play the video. And I will leave you here. It was nice to see you, Luca. Have a great talk. I will be back soon. Ciao, ciao.
Hello. So this video that you just saw was all work done by students at SAE. And if you have hard skills, if you're able to show skills like those in the video, if you're able to produce art like that, if you're able to code, your road into the industry is, let's say, it's a lot easier to start that way, because then you can show your work directly, and eventually you're gonna land somewhere because people need skills. My story, though, was a little bit different. The way I joined the industry was pretty roundabout. I started coming to Berlin as an au pair, and as an au pair, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And then I met the game industry here in Berlin, and I found a lot of interesting, cool people. And I decided I wanted to get and work in the game industry. And I didn't know where to start. So I got myself a gig in a club. I started working in a club just to pay rent. And then I started going to events. And when I was at events, I started volunteering and started taking any possible gig I could find. I would help in events, but I would also help freelancing in any situation I could find. Most of the time at the beginning, I was underpaid or paying for free or working for free, until eventually I started getting more recognized. People that I worked with were really happy with my work, and then eventually started getting paid and started having a career. I worked a little bit in a lot of different positions. I started working in quality assurance. I worked as project manager. I eventually landed on game design. And many of the gigs I had at the beginning were very short. I would work for a month or a few weeks in a place. It would be, at the beginning, it was hard to sustain myself just with the game work. I skipped the last step. Obviously, after game design, I landed at SAE. What I want to talk about is, how do you get in the industry also when you don't necessarily have a plan already? Because if you have a plan, if you have skills, it's pretty straightforward. You apply for positions, and obviously you also want to keep being active. You don't just apply for positions, you also want to work on your projects and keep honing your skills, because hard skills are definitely the easiest way to start. But hard skills are not everything, and soft skills are also a great way to enter the industry. It's just that it takes longer to show them, because it's hard to show your soft skills in just an interview. The way you advertise your soft skills is often through working somewhere and leaving a great impression to the people you work with. They will be your advertisement. So if you don't have a specific skill, like hard skill, like 3D art or coding, and you want to start, you most likely will just have to jump at every opportunity you can find. Where do you find opportunities? You attend, well, before COVID, you could attend physical events. Now that COVID is here, you can try to attend online events. You can participate to game jams. There's, for example, here in Berlin, there's a mini jam occurring every month. That's a great place to practice, to go, to train your skills, to explore, to meet people. And it's also a place where you can find likely-minded people that also want to work in games, and you can find other people to work with, to be part of a team, to start a project. It's important to keep investing your time in honing your skills and in working in games. At the same time, if you don't have hard skills and it's not easy for you to land a job immediately, you tried already sending curriculums and you didn't get something yet, obviously you want to get something on the side to sustain yourself. But it's important to not limit yourself to just sending CVs while worrying about rent. I heard that, I just wanted to open for questions. I wanted to hear if anybody on Twitch is looking right now to enter the game industry, and I wanted to hear where they're at and give some more personal advice depending on the situation, because it's very different depending on what skill set you have.
The chat can now give any questions to Luca. So ask him about the new all the stuff he can say, because he's on the SAE Institute, so he's the head instructor of the game departments. So you were very you had a lot of roles through the games industry, so you had many times to do with games, to do with the industry. But how important is it to give it all a try? Or do we have specialized on one thing? Or is it
really
important?
depends. It really depends on you as a person. You can have a great success in the game industry focusing on one skill that you really like and you hone very well. That's actually usually a pretty good way of starting in the game industry, because when you're really good at something, it's a lot easier to land the gig because people will want that skill. And it's a lot easier to be selected if you are really good at what you do. I myself didn't know what I liked about the game industry necessarily. And I started the career on a whim without having hard skills. And so what I did, I had mostly soft skills. I worked a lot in events. I'm really good at the way I describe my skills is I am good at putting down fires. So what I did is I jumped into teams and I would see that there was a problem that nobody was addressing, and then I would work on that. And this is also why I ended up landing in so many different roles, because every team needed something else. And that was what really worked well for me. And I'm sure it's going to work well for other people too. But every single person is a different road. If you listen to interviews of people talking about their careers in the game industry, you will find that almost everybody has a different route. Now in the last few years, there's more people coming directly from schools with some hard skills. But for a long, long time, most people joining the industry were coming from roundabout journeys, each with their own skills and their own things they could bring to the industry. It is possible to get in. It seems really hard at the beginning, but it is possible. It's just a question of planning your journey. So if you have some hard skills, then usually what you want to focus on showcasing them. So for example, if you're an artist, you want to make sure you have a great art station, and you obviously want your LinkedIn. As a programmer, you definitely want your LinkedIn. And then from there, you start applying for jobs and you keep working on your portfolio. And then eventually you're going to land something and work from there. If you don't have something like that to show, then most likely you need to look for some other job to sustain yourself while you try your way in, and then look for projects to participate. And it doesn't matter if you get paid or not, because you already have your safety from the mini job you're doing. And then you spend your time honing your skills, and the foot in the door becomes working with people, having them know that it's easy to work with you, that it's good to work with you. Do we have any questions coming?
Yeah, because from the Twitch chat, Bürgermeister Lehmann asked, are any of those shown games from the SAE trailer playable somewhere? Or is it only
those
demo
that
stuff?
were shown were not games. They were either animations or 3D models. There are playable games, but right now they're not easily accessible outside of SAE. We are working on setting up potentially a Steam account from SAE, so we are able to publish some of the games there. Usually the playable games are worked on by the programmers, which don't always have access to the best art, and the artists tend to produce their pieces a little bit independently. There is possibility to collaboration, but the study path is really short, and we really look for high technical skills, which means that there isn't too much time to coordinate very large teams, because coordinating a team requires a lot of project managing, and a lot of time will then be devolved into that, and less time is spent really honing the hard skills. So we tend to have, yes, you work in teams, but usually up to 3-4, which is not enough to produce that level of art and put it in a game.
Okay, so we have a second question. I'm currently studying game design at an online school, but I'm not good at coding yet. Are game jams still a good way to get connections?
Game jams are a great way to start. Not necessarily specifically to get connections. I don't think game jams are the place where you're going to find a connection that then you immediately have a connection and now you 2 weeks later have a job. But being very active in game jams can give you access to a community. because you will see the same faces that come. You will see new faces because not everybody comes every time, and some people come here and there. You will find new people, and most of all, you will get to try new skills. It's a place where you can explore yourself, where you can try new stuff, and also you can start building more portfolio pieces. Where you start. Usually, game outputs of a game jam are not the best portfolio pieces because they're not polished. But if you're still working, if you're working on your portfolio, you can start from a game jam material and then polish your part of it, for example. And I would not usually recommend polishing game jam material because the main goal of game jams is learning how to work with people, meeting people, exploring your skills. And also something that is great with game jams is usually they have pretty open communities. It's easy to start and it's easy to gain some confidence because you're unlikely to be judged negatively on what you produce in a game jam. At least that's my experience with the Berlin-based ones. I have not participated in every game jam everywhere, but I participated in more than 20 to 30 game jams here, organizing some of them. I've been organizing the Global Game Jam for a while, and the vibes in Berlin are definitely, you come here to be creative and do your thing, and whatever you do, we're going to like it. We're going to appreciate that. Just express yourself. Most of all, I would think of game jams as a motivational tool and a tool to explore your skills, because in a game jam, you're trying to prototype very quickly. But you're also very easily motivated because you have these tight deadlines and you don't care about polishing. You just want to do the thing. And so what tends to happen in game jams is people are a lot more productive than like visibly productive. Like the output looks like you did so much by the end of it because you don't worry about doing it right. You just do it. And as soon as it works, you move to the next thing. And that can really give you a good feeling of achievement. And also it can help people in the soft skills of how do you exist in a team, how do you discuss an idea, how do you decide what to do, how do you organize yourselves. And I would recommend participating in smaller teams in game jams, especially online. It's hard to coordinate on bigger teams. I would say 3-4 people maximum is a reasonable team size for exploring yourself in a game jam. And yes, going back to the initial question, which was, is it good for networking? I would say on the long term, yes. It's not the first place to go if you're just looking for a job. But I think it's important to also go there because it's the place where, because people don't go to game jams to look for people to hire necessarily. Sometimes that happens, but it's rare. But you will find people in the industry that do come to game jams. And maybe they're not looking for somebody now, but they will be looking for somebody later, and they will remember working with you on a game.
Yeah, of course.
And that could definitely be useful.
Yeah. We have a lot of questions from the chat. So, Dr. Forpino, I finished my game dev education and I want to work as technical designer, mostly prototyping with Unreal. Any advice?
Well, if you would technical designer, I would like to ask more details. Like, is this person? It's hard to. I guess it's hard to get more details from the Twitch chat, right? It flies quickly. But that's one of the downsides.
I have 2 questions from Cars 195. How can an introvert soon to be graduated like me and enough exposure for a game design position? Plus, hard skills like arts and coding seems to be more defined in getting an entry position. But how to show that one is a good narrative game designer or gameplay designer? That is actually the reason why it's really hard to start a career as a game designer or as a narrative designer. It's not easy to show your skill because the quality of your design is only visible. It's hard to the person that is looking at it can like it or not, but that doesn't mean that your design is good or not. Your design is good or not depending on the impact it has on your player base, which might not necessarily be the person that you're showing the game to. So yes, it's definitely true that it's a lot easier to show your skills in 3D or in programming by just making the thing that is asked and it works the way it's supposed to. I think starting as a game designer,
as a junior, it's possible, but it's not necessarily the best place to start if you want to be a game designer, at least in my opinion.
Okay.
Because in order to be a good game designer, you must understand the rest of the roles that are involved in game production, and because you need to talk with them, you need to coordinate with them. You can't design a game alone. Your team is making it, and you need to understand how making a game works. So what I would say is the best way to start as a game designer is to make a lot of games. You need to really make a lot of games. And if you want to do narrative design, you can do very simple games. You can pick something incredibly simple like Twine or Bitsy to do your narrative design initially. But ideally, you also then want to move on and do something more complex and more interesting. And you want to learn at least the basics of coding a little bit, or making some quick programmer style art, or very simple art, or at least implementing assets that you can find online, just to have an idea of how to navigate an engine, on how to start making something. You don't need to be an expert or the best at any of these other skills, but you do need to understand how they work. You do need to be able to interact with these. So, for example, game jams are a great place to start.
Yeah.
Because you can find teammates that can supply your technical skills, and then you can try your design skills there. And in design, there's a lot of skills that are very important, that are soft skills, that are not necessarily obvious to somebody looking at it from the outside. A lot of people that look at games think, oh, game design just means making decisions about the game and deciding what the game is gonna be structured as. But actually, a lot of game design is communication. Being able to communicate with your team exactly what it is that you want them to do, and being able to make decisions and clear decisions. So, for example, how to do documentation, because you do need to do documentation, is not just, I have a great idea, that's it. You need to figure out how to write it in a short, effective way that your team will want to engage with. Because, for example, if you describe your game in a game design document that is just like walls of text, nobody's going to read it. Your team is just going to open the thing and then close it and then start to make it the way they can understand it. You need to make, I don't want to get too much in the details of, I don't want to give a lectures on how to make game design documents, but very shortly, you want to have pictures, you want to have short, effective sentences, and you want to have very, very clear goal. Like, you need to make design decisions. You shouldn't explain a feature in a messy or incomplete way. You want to be complete, to the point, very short, a lot of visual aid. And this is just one example of skills that are not necessarily obviously associated in the public with design, but are actually necessary to be able to do a good game design job. Because if you can't write effective short documentation that really shows what you design, what's the point of having the best idea? Your team will not know it. And ideas are cheap, but everybody has a lot of great ideas. But being able to make sense of them, structure them, and communicate them, that's hard. And I think that the best thing you can do if you want to be a game designer or a narrative designer is really make a lot of games alone with people on your free time, because that's gonna give you a lot of practical experience. And as you do that, you're gonna be finding it a lot easier to sell yourself as a designer, because you will understand many more nuances of what designing actually means. And then the first step is making a lot of games that you can make in a day or two, and that's one step. But obviously there's more to designing, because usually when you work for a company making a game, you don't make the game in a day or two, and then polishing becomes very important, and it's a very different type of designing. And that's why it's usually, and that part is hard to learn if you don't have any context, if you never worked in making a game before. So if you have the opportunity to dedicate yourself to making your own game, if you have the resources to just work on that without having to worry about anything else, I would recommend to try it just for the experience. If you don't, then I would recommend to try every possible angle and try to get any possible work in the industry whatsoever, paid or not, at the beginning, just to get experience in actually making a game with a company or with a larger project. And eventually, if you have the skills, you're going to land somewhere. But it's not an easy start as game designer, for sure. I guess level design is also a more reasonable place to start, because for level design, first of all, there's a lot more need for level design. Even if you have a really big game, you don't have that many designers, but you might need a lot of level designers. So there's more places for you. But also, it's easier to show your skill because you can pick a game that already exists. Let's say Portal 2. It's got a great level design system, and you can make the levels for it. Or you can pick StarCraft 2, which is also very famous for its the maps that users can create. And then you can actually work on this, something that is very similar to the job you're going to do in a company, which is making a level through the tools that the company has to make levels. And then you can show your levels, and you can show how many people played those levels in the games you made those levels in. And that is a great way to start as a level designer.
Yeah.
Which it's one way in which you can eventually land on narrative or game design. It is not the same. It's definitely a different type of skill, but I guess it's a lot closer to design than programming or art are. I took a long way to answer.
No problem. So that's fine. We have two more questions from Parties 103. Just finished a 9 months intensive data analysis program and would love to begin my data path in the gaming industry. Most companies need experienced people in the industry, so any tips to being confident and as an applicant with previous experience in gaming analysis? So
I see.
Like in every job.
Yes. That's what I was about to say. I think the confidence in interviews comes with time. It's not something you can like do a trick and now you are confident. Confidence comes from, for me, for example, confidence came from making a lot of games in game jams. And at the beginning, it was just fun. And then at some point, I would receive positive feedback from other jammers about my game. And it was like very positive feedback on those games. And that really gave me a lot of confidence. And then once I got my first jobs, then it was easier to get the confidence. It took me a long time. I would argue that I was not confident at all until 2 years ago. And I've been in the industry for 6 or 7. And I got pretty good. I did pretty good interviews while thinking that I wasn't good for it. I think the trick is also a lot of the faking until you make it, if you're able to. It's forcing yourself to believe that you're good at what you do. And then when you're actually doing things, that's what's going to get you the confidence. Sadly, people get evaluated a lot on confidence. Not everywhere, not all the time, but it is a very important feature. And true confidence, I think, can only be obtained when you know from your experience that you can deliver results. When you already did the thing, that's when you know you can do it again. And I know this is boring advice. It's like, you need to have done it to get it. But you can practice the fake confidence of just be confident in the things you did because you tell yourself so, even if you don't feel it. Especially if your friends do agree that the stuff you did is valuable, that can believe them. That's it's hard. It's hard to believe your friends when they say that you're good at something. I know, but I think that's the first step. And also probably going and trying to get as many interviews as possible if you want to gain confidence, because the more you spend in an environment, the more confident you get in that environment. This is it's not true for everybody, but it's generally the case. It's generally the case. The more you spend time doing something, the more you get confident.
Okay, Luca, we only have 2 minutes left, and I want to ask a last question from Hexa33. How hard is it to get a job if you're self-taught, come from different country and don't have an Ausbildung?
I see. I am not 100% sure on everything, but I can imagine that if you need a visa here and you don't have a degree, that is probably going to make it harder to get a job, because something that you can notice in a lot of companies looking for that are hiring on a wide spectrum, they will ask for a degree often, even if there's no degree necessary to do the job, because it's just easier to get and keep a visa if you do have a degree. So that's one challenge that's definitely going to be the case. And also it's going to be hard because it's harder to do freelance gigs as a foreigner that doesn't necessarily have a visa. Those are the two main challenges. Because, for example, my road was possible because I'm Italian, and in the European Union, I could just easily get a freelancing number to do small invoices here. So I could get a gig that was 2 weeks and get paid something without having to sign an enormous contract, just giving an invoice. That can help a lot because it can give you these tiny experiences here and there that can make you slowly get the career. And if you don't have access to these to a freelancing number or the visa, then you're kind of forced to only take free gigs, which is going to make everything harder because then you need to work more to get your month done. I don't want to be destructive. I'm just being realistic about the challenges. Yeah. So these are the main challenges. So what I would say is start your journey in the industry when you already prepared some. So instead of jumping with nothing ready, first start from a safe place you have, like a place that you know you can work, or maybe from your country to begin with. Maybe if you have somebody that can host you, that could be another way of getting some safety. But basically start from a place of safety and start developing your skills. And only once you're already getting some small things here and there, then jump into the pot. Because unless you have hard skills, it's really hard as a foreigner to start, as a non-European to start from scratch. Because, I'm sorry, I didn't want to. I guess one thing would be getting in maybe an app, I don't know, depends which country you're from. If you can get funding to study, that would be a great way to start. Because then while you're studying, you can, I'm talking too much.
So no, it's fine. So Luca, but very thanks to this interesting talk. It was a pleasure to meet you, and it was fantastic to hear that from such a professional like you. Thank you very much for this talk, and we are coming to the next speaker. Thanks, and bye, Luca.